All right, well, good morning, everyone. We'll give Randy just a minute. There he is. All right, let's get started here. Let's move on down to the Economic Development Council. And I believe Tiana's on. Oh, you're muted. Hate when that happens.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioner Schutte and Commissioner Netherland. I'm Tiana Dunbar, and I serve as the Marketing and Communications Specialist of the Mason County Economic Development Council. For the past several months, the Mason EDC has been working closely with Pacific, Grays, and Thurston ADOs, or Associate Development Organizations, to reestablish our Regional Economic Development District, or EDD. We're pleased to share a significant milestone, and I would like to take a moment to introduce Jason Robertson. Jason is our consultant and subject matter expert for the Pacific Salish EDD, and Jason is going to step us through a presentation and ultimately present a resolution for your consideration. During our October board meeting, the EDC Board of Directors passed this resolution on and is hoping for your approval as well. And without further ado, Jason Robertson.
Thanks, Tiana.
Sorry, it just got really loud in here. I had to shut a door. It's good to see you again. I think you all recall we convened on the 25th of September for sort of a first reading. And if I'm able to share my screen, I have I hope what will be a short presentation today. And I can, and here it comes. So, like Tiana said, we're hoping to get your approval today of the SEDS plan, which it will have one more update after I review all the public comment, and also the resolution for forming a new economic development district. Just a quick reminder that there will be, I guess, the 381st district across the country. The districts are recognized by the U.S. Economic Development Administration. They've got to be multi-county. You can't have your own district. And so we're reconstituting this district, adding Thurston to what used to be Colpack, and we're proposing to call this the Pacific Salish region. So what we're hoping to do with this tool in hand is be more competitive going after these types of grants that the EDA offers, as well as other federal agencies. What's hard for us to get today are large construction projects, but also planning grants and revolving loan funds, which will increase our toolbox for doing economic development. So we're on kind of step 3. We got approval from all the counties to proceed with conducting the plan. We got the grant, and now we're in the public review process. I've received 16 comments to date from all the different counties, and then we need all 4 counties and the EDC boards to approve the resolution and plan, and then EDA is concurrently reviewing our plan. So we'll assemble the public comment and EDA's insights and finalize the plan, and then it goes off to the governor's office for approval. Excuse me. So just a reminder why we're calling it the Pacific Salish. It goes from the Pacific Ocean to the Salish Sea, and it's almost Pack Mountain, but Lewis County is in a separate district with Clark County. And we did approach them, and they decided to stay where they were. So I'm not going to go through the whole plan with you. We sent it out in advance so that you'd have some time to familiarize yourself with it. But basically, it has a description of what the region is, what kind of holds us together, lots of data, but not too much, hopefully. There's a section on resiliency, which is really important where we live, from earthquakes to tsunamis, legacy industries, and so forth. There's an infrastructure section. And we decided to feature broadband in this iteration of the plan. The plan can be updated annually if we want to. but that, all the public works departments have their kind of marching orders, and they're eligible to come to the district to ask for help with the grant. Then we have a SWOT analysis, vision, goals, strategies, and actions, priority projects, which is still kind of evolving here in final days, and then an appendix with all the stuff we looked at to draw our conclusions. I'd say probably 14 out of 16 people said the vision statement was favorable and they liked it. A couple of tweaks. There's always a wordsmither or two in the crowd, so we'll see if we can work that in. And then we built the plan actions around 4 major focus areas that we think will cover just about anything we could imagine to pursue grant-wise. So the industry entrepreneurial networks, infrastructure capacity modernization, that's where we get at, aged marinas, bridge safety, all that kind of stuff. Economic opportunity for all has some workforce bent to it, creating more pathways, non-traditional pathways for people to gain meaningful employment. And then environmental stewardship and resiliency, and that, with rising tides, sea walls, all that kind of stuff, fire hazards, all those kind of major projects we're going to have to do. So what I want to do now, because I'm assuming all of you have read the plan, and this PowerPoint also has all the strategies and actions listed in it, and I don't want you to have to listen to me talk for 45 minutes. So maybe I'll just pause and see if you have any questions.
All right. Thank you, Jason. And you did a great presentation also at the EDC meeting last week. So I wanted to thank you for that one. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Jason?
Yeah, Jason, thank you. Just a couple of quick questions, I guess. In terms of project or work areas that were submitted in the plan, is those sort of evolve over time? What's kind of the thinking on how are we able to amend this or make changes? Is hopefully we're successful with some things, but just as things need to be added or dropped off.
Yeah, so according to the EDA, we've got a minute to figure out the exact governance structure, but the way we've been discussing it is that each county will be represented by the head of their economic development council, and that they'll decide things collaboratively and jointly, and each county gets an equal vote for how we proceed. I think that sort of the focus areas and the vision statement is something you revisit every 3 to 5 years, but I'm proposing that we have a process in place that we can update the action list at least annually, or if not more frequently, because things change quickly and opportunities arise that you didn't imagine, right? So let's say we're pursuing project A and B, and then somebody says, if you help me put in a substation, I can create 180 jobs. Well, we've got to have an emergency process to accommodate that.
Great, thanks. And then the other question I had is, this is based on SEDS list projects that other committees or counties rather have? Is that how the project lists were developed?
Yeah, so in the appendix is sort of the catch-all, all the possible projects that the counties and cities are working on. And then that priorities project are the ones after we talk to the counties and cities that sort of have come to the top that they're most ready to go on or most need. But like I said, we'll have to have a flexible process for evaluating what goes forward. I think I can envision scenarios where like we have 7 things going forward at once, right? But there'll be other times where they're going to say, you've got to pick one thing as how much your region can have for a project. And that's when that coordination will have to happen.
Thank you.
Right. And Jason, I think there was one thing that we talked about at the EDC meeting was maybe adding a few more projects to the list that Mason County had. Just I think we had like 3 bullets.
Yes, and the EDC has sent me more information that I'll be incorporating into the updated version.
Okay.
So, and then I'll run that back through the EDC to say, did we capture what you were saying?
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. I think, looking at what other counties submitted, I think we could have been a little bit better on the details with some of those areas. And so I'm glad to hear that there's additional discussion happening at the EDC board level about that. And whatever we can do at the county to help support that, I think we would want to do that, just to make sure that we have, we're starting this off on the right foot, right? That we have adequate detail associated with priority projects in the county. So that's
yeah, for sure. And so one of your priority actions is workforce housing. And I think Randy sent Jennifer the housing action plan. So I'm going to look through that and see if I can put some more detail and cost estimates and such into that action. And just for context, so our grant deadline is basically October 31st. So I'm going to be I'm kind of updating this real time as we visit all the counties and economic development councils. We've got over a week, almost 2 weeks to kind of shore up those projects. And I should have said earlier that the EDC board did unanimously approve both the SEDS and the resolution last week.
Right. And so I think that that's something that we need to get on our agenda, Mark, for us to approve. And there is
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to say that there's a sample resolution included in the packet.
So does this take the place of the traditional SEDS list process that we go through? Is this in lieu of that this year, or?
No, each county is going to maintain its own SEDS list, and this is the regional one for the district.
Okay.
So you can have a project on both lists, frankly.
So we'll need to see if the EDC is going to produce a SEDS list for our review that's separate from this as well, Mark and Sharon.
My understanding was that the items that we've included in our recompete request would be included in this, and then in January of 24, updating our SEDS list that we utilize here for our local funding projects, and that would be in more detail to maybe a more granular level of projects that we'd like to include in the SEDS list.
Okay, well, let's have a conversation offline about that. I think this ties into some of the conversation that we had with Representatives Griffey and Couture a couple of weeks ago. But let's talk about it a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah, I'd love to make sure I'm moving forward with the board's wishes. So,
well, I think more than anything, it's just we need to have clarity on like what it all is that we need to adopt. I mean, I get this part of it, right? I get that we have to do a resolution for the EDD and everything, but to be able to kind of anticipate what else we might be doing from a SEDS list perspective is going to be important too, in addition to this.
And then just from our end, today was supposed to be the day that you approved the resolution and the EDD, because I've got to have the final draft to EDA on the 31st, which is my final meeting with the Thurston County Commission as well. So I don't know what the protocol is for getting that done.
So I would put it on so normally resolutions go before the commissioners on their regular board meeting days. This is just a briefing day. And so I would be putting that on the agenda for October 24th, which is a Tuesday, Jason. Would that work if we could get that signed and back to you on the 24th?
That's perfect. That's when Pacific and Grace Harbor are doing it as well. So one happy family.
So I will do that, commissioners. I will make sure that this resolution gets before you on October 24th.
Thanks, Mark.
That's great. All right. Any more questions or comments for Jason?
Not for me.
Well, thank you for your flexibility and quick response to participate in this project. I think it'll yield some pretty significant benefits in the future, and very appreciative.
All right, appreciate your hard work on this also.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Like kind of like herding cats, but we'll get there.
A little bit. We'll get it done.
All right. Thanks, Jason.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Take care. All right, let's move on to the assessor's office. Do we have Patti on here?
I'm under Sierra's name. Good morning.
You are tricky.
I know. Good morning, everybody. So I'm just asking to permanently reclass. I know the briefing says to add an additional position within the assessor's office, but it's just creating another position for an analyst instead of paying lead pay as we've been paying. So it's just a reclass, and we're waiting on Neary. She's supposed to ask the union for approval for the position and HR approval. So
I want to be, so Patti, I think, I don't remember this being a reclass. What I understood was that we were going to initiate and open this FTE and then have a meritorious promotional process, right?
You're right. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
You're
Just
right.
want to make sure I'm clear. And so we actually have had a lot of great conversation, commissioners, around the process for new FTEs. And do we talk to the union first? Do we talk to commissioners first? So we're going to have a nice policy procedure to come forward before you. So this is just one of those kind of chicken before the egg, miscommunication, and I'll go ahead and own it and make sure that it was something that was going to be in budget. And then there was, you know, who do you talk to, the union or the commissioners first? So I think we have that pinned down for this next year and as new FTEs come up. But this would be opening a position. The assessor has been great about working with HR and coming up with a position description. And then the intent is to not have to have a lead, that there would actually be a senior up there.
Thank you, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd love to see that tweaked. I don't know. I have concerns when you have a lead person that's been a lead for a year or more.
Yeah.
It seems to me like that person's not a lead anymore. To me, it requires a position change or modification or something like that. So I'm really glad that you're taking a look at this, Mary, and moving forward with it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would see it as a reclassification as well. It's just that Mary has to put together a reclassification. If it doesn't exist, then we have to create the actual job position. And I think that's what Mary's saying. So I expect that you're going to bring us that job description for us to approve the creation of after you deal with the union.
So a position description does exist. And what we've found is that we need preliminary budget approval from the commissioners for us to kind of go down the path, because if there's no money, then it's not worth talking to the union about and continuing down the path. But a draft position description does exist. And I have reviewed it with the assessor, and there's definitely a valid, it's a valid need, I believe.
Yeah, and I believe that it is. I'm still just confused. You're saying a draft description exists. Is it in existence within their contract, that description?
No, it would need to be activated in a conversation with the union. It has not existed before.
Yeah, just make sure they're not going to have issue with it, though. I think it goes the other way around. Just see if they're going to have issue, and then you ask the commission if they're willing to do it. Because you're not making any promises. You're just finding out where they're at and if they're going to be challenging it.
Did you want me to follow up the commissioners or the union rep?
So I'm 99% sure that Teamsters will not deny additional membership, but I will call Dane and double check.
Okay, thank you.
Now, you said additional membership. Are we changing to create a job classification that this person will move into, that because it wouldn't be a new position as much as it would be this person will move into it? We open it up for bid. What are we doing? Because if we do that, we have to remember we have a position to backfill that.
We'll remain at 13 full-time employees, and we'll open it up for bid amongst our Teamsters.
Okay,
Right.
so
So that means
I want to be really clear. So there's two different. So a reclass is, we believe that an employee in an existing FTE now needs to permanently move based on stuff that they've been assigned and the work they've been assigned is at a higher level or a lower level, and we need to do an analysis on that front. Or we're creating a new FTE and we need to go talk with the union and negotiate that, and there would be a meritorious process. We do not automatically move people into new positions, and they would interview and compete for the new position. So which one do you want?
The second one.
Yeah, yes, but it's something in between, because you need to get them to agree that the position exists. If they are allowing a position to exist, we have plenty of positions that exist that are not filled. So there is no new FTE. We can create and then move that person into the position if they allow it to be created through a reclass process. But if the position already doesn't exist at all, and you create a new position, that means you're telling the union that you're going to have an FTE. That's a little different than what we're doing here.
Like, I guess I just need to, I mean, I can follow which steps. I just need to know what direction the assessor would like to go.
I just want to be able to have 2 analysts, 1 at each level. They can, everybody would apply. But keep it, my staff at 13 full-time employees.
So you are not backfilling it, or you are going to backfill if your internal were to be promoted?
Right. I would not backfill. No, there'd only be an analyst and a senior.
Yeah. So they need to just get the job description okayed by the union, that it can be included in the job descriptions that are recognized by the contract, and then we do a reclass.
Okay, so that's different than what Patty's saying. So Patti, maybe you need to nail this down a little bit better offline, and then we can come back and figure out which path we want to take.
All right. Well,
she wants to. No, Patti, you're making perfect sense to me. You want to move a person into this position, but the position doesn't exist yet, so we can't reclassify them. We need to create the position, allow for the position to be recognized by the union, then we can reclassify them into it.
And I think what Patty's saying is she wants there to be a meritorious process for the new position where it's posted as a job and then people compete, and we're not just reclassing a person and pinpointing them to, you know what I mean? Like that. So I'm hearing, Patti, you want to have them like interview and assessment and all that stuff?
Correct.
Okay. Well,
then we have to do away with the position. Then we have to do away with the position too.
Well, I think that's part of our conversation that Patti and I can have is, regardless, we need to approach the union about the creation of the senior, right? And then, like you said, Commissioner, and then we can decide how we fill it based on what Patty's determining her operational needs are right now.
All right, sounds good. So you and Patti will speak and then figure out what direction the intent is, and then we'll move forward on that.
I was trying to follow, like everything else in the office has a senior position. So after time and on the job and classes, they would kind of move into it. So it's just kind of evolved after we went to annual update and then kind of what they've been assigned. So just a need that I need an analyst and a senior analyst. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I'm sorry, Mary, if I was not clear.
No, well, I look
No
forward.
worries, we'll figure it out offline. Thanks for being here, though. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right, let's move on to community development. Do we have Kell? We have Luke. Hello, Luke.
Morning, Commissioners. I am just here to brief you that at your meeting on October 24th, I will be reading a news release on behalf of the Mason County Historic Preservation Commission for 2 open positions on the commission.
Sounds like fun.
Oh, it is. That is all.
Yeah, and that's kind of a fun commission. We have so many historic buildings that are around here that I think it's cool. Mason County is it's full of history, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we're constantly trying to dig up new stories, so it is
Right.
definitely a fun commission.
Yeah. All right, commissioners, anybody have anything for Luke? or for Kell?
Nope, thank you.
Thanks, Luke.
All right, thank you. All right, public health. Dave, you're on.
Hey, good morning, commissioners. And we're going to start with Melissa.
Morning, commissioners. I have a request for proposal for the remaining emergency housing funds. So as you recall, we've discussed it a few times since these funds became available at the beginning of the 24 fiscal year. About $884,000 were made available through the Department of Commerce to essentially continue a lot of the emergency programs that came from COVID so that we wouldn't have to lose any of those additional beds or services. We have about a little bit over $101,000 remaining. So in order to allocate those, we'd like to put out a brief request for proposals. The people who are eligible for these funds are going to be any of the other agencies who've already operated emergency shelters, rapid rehousing programs, and street outreach programs. So the request here is to be able to release the RFP and read a news release at the next regular meeting.
I think that's great, commissioners.
Hey.
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. That's all I've got.
All righty. How are we doing with our housing, and do we have any concerns anywhere?
I do. So if it's a good time to share, I think I'll go a little bit into detail on our single adult emergency shelter. So as you may know, Community Lifeline, there's a little bit of background on Community Lifeline. Since April of 2022, we put them on a corrective action plan for ongoing invoicing errors. Didn't see any improvement on that, so we implemented a quality improvement plan that would be effective through the end of the last contract term, which ended in June of 23. Didn't see any improvement there. So Community Lifeline actually entered into this current contract period beginning July 1st on probation status. So what that really, I mean, that was really just for failure to effectively implement the quality improvement plan, follow through on the actions on the corrective action plan. And since then, we still have not seen any improvements, and we've actually seen a little bit more fraudulent activity that I would consider fraudulent on their monthly invoices. So that kind of covers the corrective action measures that we've implemented for the financial issues. Additionally, we do have other issues with Community Lifeline not operating in compliance with their scope of work, which is outlined in their contract. So as a reminder, the scope of work in all of our housing contracts are based on what the agencies provided as their operations in their applications from the request for proposal process. So in that application, Community Lifeline indicated that they are a 24-hour, 35-bed, night by night or drop-in shelter. So that means 35 beds should be available every night. And they're operated on a first come, first served basis where they have a clear communication on what time people check in to be able to secure a bed. And they have not been operating that. So for a few months now, I've had the public call and make complaints. I've had partner agencies from other homeless crisis response programs call with concerns that they have had clients who have been unable to secure beds and as a result have had to sleep on the street. It's my understanding at the moment that Community Lifeline is operating 14 drop-in beds and the rest are continuous stay. So that means that individuals are staying at Community Lifeline for an extended period of time. They aren't doing intakes for coordinating entry so that they can get into permanent housing, which is another issue with not operating one according to the scope of work, because that is a contract requirement for the dollars from commerce. And it's not helping the system. So it's not moving people through the system so that they're being exited from homelessness into permanent housing. We've attempted for months to get a little bit more clarification from Community Lifeline on exactly how they're operating, to let them know that they're not operating according to their contract. We've done our due diligence. I presented to the Community Lifeline board just as a first quarter update for the year since they're on probation status. I think that was on September 20th. And we just continue to see no improvement on their finances and have not gotten any clarification on how their beds are operating. So I think we're at a point where that's concerning anyway, but now that we're kind of in the middle of inclement weather and it's expected to worsen, what is that going to do for our homeless population if they're already having to sleep on the street because they can't get a bed? I think it's had a significant impact on other agencies. I did have agencies share with me that they feel that they're held to a different standard because there really hasn't been any change from Community Lifeline, even despite the corrective actions that have been taken on them. So that's really a summary of kind of where we are. Very high level, very brief. I'm really happy to provide the board with more documentation. If you would like to see that from the last year, from this contract period, based on our process for corrective action, and kind of the progressive action that's taken, that's documented in our written standards, which was approved by this board, I think back in March. The next step for an agency that's on probation without improvement would actually be a reduction in funding. So if that's a consideration, I'm happy to share more documentation. I understand that it's tough, especially in a community where they're the only service provider that operates an single adult emergency shelter. But I think that there needs to be some kind of accountability at this stage. We've seen no improvement. And I think at times we've actually been encountered with defiance from the agency.
All right, good. Any questions or comments from commissioners?
Yeah, that seems to be the norm lately. I've been hearing a lot of that type of thing with the defiance and stuff lately. When there's a contract signed, that you have to follow through with that contract. And I want to remind the public, if they're watching, that we answer to the state auditor who will go through those contracts. And if we're not fulfilling what we promised when we took the money and what we promised when we gave out the money that was going to be done, then we are held responsible for that too. Everybody's held responsible or must be. So I guess my question to you would be, what is your recommendation? And if your recommendation is a shortening of the funding, I'm not against that because they have to follow through with what they say. Can you put down a monetary note or expectation of what we paid out when we agreed to extend these contracts? Because I remember extending the contracts to pay for more beds. Well, there was a dollar amount that went with that. And the option is pretty clear. You either provide what you signed on the contract or whatever that dollar amount has to stay within the county. And maybe we have to find another way to do housing.
Yes, I can provide a figure. I believe we actually have it outlined how like a percentage of what would be taken away. And if I were to make a recommendation or a proposal, I would say definitely do a reduction in funding with the opportunity to earn it back based on successfully completing a corrective action plan. I think the issue that we've had is that we've done corrective action plans and we've done quality improvement. We've provided a significant amount of technical assistance to this agency and there hasn't been improvement. So I think if there could be a motivating factor, we can get this back. If we perform according to the corrective action plan, that may be a softer approach with incentives for them to actually improve their performance. But I'm happy to put a plan together.
That would be great. Commissioner Schutte?
Yeah, first off, I think credit to Todd, Haley, you, Melissa, and Dave for continuing to work with Community Lifeline. Mark, I know you've been involved in a lot of those conversations as well. Just, it's just wildly disappointing that our only emergency shelter would operate in this way and continue to, I think, misrepresent their bed counts to us. I think that's really inappropriate. If that's the case, where essentially we're treating 14 beds in there as truly emergency shelter beds when the expectation is it should be at 35, that it should be at, with the conditional use permit that they've been going for, over 50 that we've been funding them for years and years with, our state funding, but also through ARPA to help get them through last winter. And there's just been really no effort to, I think, improve their practices in reporting. I know that there's frustration from our other housing providers or homelessness agencies about the reporting process and everything. And, just kind of look at, we have, we're seeing the same mistakes consistently. And the question back is, well, why do we keep getting dinged for the same things over and over again? And I think my question back is, why do you keep making the same mistakes over and over again and expecting to have the same, the same treatment, from us? And as Commissioner Netherland mentioned, we do have to be accountable to the state for this money. And ultimately, we have to be accountable to the taxpayers of Mason County for this money. And I know that there's a lot of frustration in the community about how our homelessness system is working here. And I don't want to be an agent of the status quo when it comes to these organizations and their willingness and ability to carry out their responsibilities and functions that they agreed to. We're holding them to standards that they put forward in their RFP responses. We're holding them to standards that are put forward by Commerce, that are in our action plans. These aren't things that we're changing after the fact. We're not moving the goalposts. We expect that our emergency shelter is going to operate as an emergency shelter, and that it's going to follow through on the commitments that it made when it signed the contract. That's how contracts work. And if they don't work, there are consequences to that. And so I'm interested in seeing what those would look like, Melissa, from your office to see what is reasonable to approach Community Lifeline with. But we can't keep the status quo in place and expect the conditions to improve. If they are committed to this work, then they would be committed to being honest and transparent and accountable to us as partners. And then I guess the other thing that I would say too is, and this goes out to all of our providers in the community, is figure out how to work together. Figure out how to work together. If you don't think coordinated entry is working the right way, if you don't feel like these different organizations are getting treated differently, figure out how to combine your resources to actually move the needle on homelessness, because it isn't working in the way it is. And government can help, but government can't be the only one to come to the table to try to solve this issue. We need nonprofits to step up. And I think that's the frustration that we have at the Housing and Behavioral Health Advisory Board. In those discussions with members on there, we hear it when we're out in the community, and it's just like status quo isn't going to do it. And so if this is a catalyst for figuring out a better path forward, if there's a better way for us to use this money in the future that actually gets results and doesn't just keep things moving, keep things comfortable for certain organizations, then we need to be open to that too. But we need all of the organizations to step up and follow through on their commitments in order to make this work. So definitely interested in having more conversation about it. We got to get it fixed.
Yeah, I agree 100% with both Commissioner Netherland and Schutte, and just being involved in the community meetings as well. I think, or organization meetings, they weren't really community meetings, but we're getting all the organizations together in the city and the county and trying to come up with plans. And I think one of the big messages there was teamwork. You have to work together to make sure that you can accomplish a common goal. And it's not an easy job. I know they don't have they have multiple personalities and multiple issues. And I'll bet you that not one person is like their neighbor. And so it does make it harder for them. But we have to also hold people accountable. So I look forward to a plan that you might come up with or suggestions. So. And I want to thank you too, because your job is not easy.
Appreciate it.
just also just, kind of Commissioner Trask and you and Dave were participants in the task force with the city, had a whole host of options, and again, the city has limited resources to be able to put into these things. I mean, we would too if it weren't for pass through dollars from commerce. So it's not like, I'm not saying that they're doing something wrong or that it's not a value judgment on the city. They're just limited. We aren't, because we get pass through money. But like, it'd be great to hear from people that made commitments as part of the task force about where they are with those commitments, whether it be the pallet shelter program, whether it be going after different state funding. It's all great to have a blue ribbon committee to get together and talk about things, but if you make a commitment in those meetings, there has to be some sort of plan to follow through on that as well. And I think there might be some room for discussion there, and just getting some updates on where people are with the commitments they made, and if they've changed their position on those commitments, why? What's the alternative?
Right.
And Melissa,
oh, go ahead, Randy.
And I want to remind you, Melissa, I've been pushing for the idea of trying to have more pockets to put these things in, and that our staff should be the ones to extend a hand to figure out how to do these things. And this is America. Well, I'm not in America right now. In America, that's how it works. Competition is a beautiful thing, but you may have to be the ones that help create that competition. When somebody's telling me, though, they're buying 35 apples, or I'm paying for 35 apples, I'm not going to be okay with getting 14. I'm just not. And neither is anybody else, and neither should anybody else. So let's see if there's other ways of creating other options to at least spread some of those apples out so that we do get the people service.
Right, and I think it's not really, I mean, it is a competition, but it's not a competition when it comes to the people's lives and when the people are out there on the street. And so I'm hoping that our nonprofits don't see this as a competition for money, but they see it as make it a competition of how many people can you get into a home, or how many people have you helped with behavioral health or something like that. If it has to be a competition, let's make it that type of a competition, not a competition for money or just saying we've got this many heads and beds. All right, anything else for Melissa or Dave?
The thing that's often overlooked is the requirement for a strong administration, right? To set up these operations to work well. And oftentimes I feel like they're focused on, we're providing services, and yet without that good, strong administrative function in place, it doesn't work. And so, if we have the public out there that on our Zoom briefing this morning that is thinking about how do we set up some of these services and do these things, I think setting up that strong administrative function right from the start is essential before you're able to really effectively provide the services. So often overlooked, can't just continually point at, but I'm helping these individuals, because if you don't have that strong administrative function in place, it doesn't work.
That's true. All right. Thank you guys. Thanks for the update, and keep us posted.
All right. Thanks, commissioners.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. All right, Loretta, you're up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mike sends his apologies. He's stuck in a meeting that went longer than expected. So I'll cover the contract amendments that we've got going here. First thing I'd like to note, commissioners, is that we've listed on-call geotech services and requesting to extend that. That actually we want to remove from the list. The Landau Associates has had a challenge with providing geotech services and sent us a letter to that effect. So we'll be going back out for those professional services if needed. And then the other thing to note at the end under item 2, it says hydrologic analysis for Lower Uncle John's Creek culvert. And then we'll be eliminating the participation in the PSIC agreements. We need to bring those forward separately to you commissioners for review. And that is it, unless you have any questions about what we're extending and why.
Okay, commissioners, any discussion or questions?
Not directly on those items, but related. So, Loretta, is there any option or opportunity for us to go out for permit and plan review so that we have capacity when like somebody comes in for a grading permit or it needs stormwater or whatever, kind of like what we do over in DCD?
Yes.
Have like a, is there, what would be the process to being able to add that to what we do?
All that we would need to do, commissioners, is bring forward approval to go out for an RFQ. So put that out there. And then we would need to have an associated fee schedule to go with that so that we're collecting the appropriate fees to reimburse our consultant for those reviews. 2-step. So
yeah, I'll let Commissioners Trask and Netherland weigh in on it if they want, but I'd be really interested in seeing that added on to what we currently have on call consultants for. I just think we're always chasing capacity and internally, and so having that as a pressure relief, I think, would be beneficial to us going forward.
Yep, I'd agree with that. I think that's a great idea.
Agreed.
all right, I will relight that fire. We've had this conversation, so I'll make sure that we bring that forward.
We've had some preliminary meetings with community development to talk about when we get specific permits that are turned in that require the coordination between public works and community development and even public health. Really sitting down and kind of talking about what does this process look like? What are the time requirements associated with it and how we're going to meet those things? And so that we're all operating on the same page associated with expectations that we have in getting these permits turned around. So would love to see that continue, Loretta.
Yep.
And Kell, if Kell's on.
Yep, that would be great.
Understatement.
I strongly support that.
All right.
All right. Great. Do you have anything else for us? I see you've got a new finance manager.
We do. And I was hoping to have Stephanie jump on, but of course she's going through her HR orientation this morning, but definitely really happy to announce that today starting is Public Works' new finance manager. And Stephanie comes to us. She was the director of finance at Penn Met Parks, and she also had previously worked with the Port of Bremerton. So definitely speaks our language, both on the public works side of things and absolutely on the finance side, and really, really excited to welcome her. And commissioners, if we're not down there sooner, we will plan to make formal introductions during the next board meeting in person. But very happy.
Very cool.
Adding to our administrative capacity, Mark.
All right,
Yes.
we're excited.
I mean, we got a lot of work to do. I don't want to scare her off right away, but I'm excited to have her on board.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then commissioners, the other thing that I wanted to share with you is back in July, we received a letter addressed to me, but said you've been awarded a grant for Rochester sewer improvements. I was like, what? Different county. Can you check us out and see what this is about? Well, we did receive notice back from Commerce that yes, indeed, we were awarded $250,000 for improvements that we had submitted for the local and community grant process last go around. So surprise, we have some additional funds for our request for North Bay and Beards Cove. And we will be bringing forward an agreement and talking with you and Mark about how to apply those funds to maximize our results. But that's exciting news. Our net after award is $242,500, and that will definitely come in handy.
Great. That's a nice surprise.
It is. Yeah. It was kind of too good to be true back in July. It's like, really? And so it took a while to hear back from Commerce, but that's the happy surprise result. So that'll get us going about thinking about our request. Again, that we need to prepare for review by the end of this month, and how that plays into that request as well.
Loretta, can you give us the commissioners a little update on the Evergreen Estates water main extension?
Yes. Yeah. So that too, we've been slow. I've been slow getting out an RFQ on that. Dave was kind during our retreat. We've definitely been meeting and coordinating. But next up this week, I'll be meeting with Evergreen Estates Board to secure a commitment to connect to city water, which is required prior to our first going out to RFQ and invoicing. And then also finalizing a draft for the RFQ for the design work and construction services. And that will need to go to the CDBG grant manager prior to going out for the RFQ. They'll do a review and approval on that. So that's that. And then we've established monthly progress meetings with the grant manager. And then once Stephanie gets on board up to speed, we'll be handing off the finance role on that piece. And I'm hoping that we can hire somebody soon also on the engineering side to make sure we've got some engineering management on that project as well.
Yeah, so maybe even another example of where we could potentially use some external engineering resources to help out on this. I know this is a priority that the commissioners had identified, back in early 2022, and Dave has been working with that. Evergreen Estates definitely is in need of some support for both their sewer and their water, and I feel like it's being set up for some great opportunities out there with the extension where the city's going out to the port for the sewer, and the water would be perfect timing with that too, and those individuals could really utilize that for a number of positive reasons. So I want to make sure we stay up on that.
Yep. Okay, and then what other lovely updates? And then Richard is here to talk a little bit about the Belfair Sewer Extension schedule and budget and where we are, and then to share some really great news about replacing the screens out at Belfair.
Good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
Okay, well, first I'd like to address the construction schedule for the Belfair Sewer Extension. We're going to have to authorize additional work days, and this is due to schedule impacts that were outside of our contractor's control. Basically, PUD 3 power to the pump station. We're still waiting for that to happen, and PUD is still waiting for the other issue, the emergency vehicle access road that had to be constructed for the Olympic Ridge development. That's occurring as we're sitting here right now. And it's been happening for the last 4 or 5 weeks. they probably got another 2 weeks worth of work before the PUD can even start. So we'd like to extend this contract to the end of December. Conservatively, that'll give us plenty of time and would still be able to take advantage of the 0.54% interest rate. It'll kind of crunch us on getting all the certification of project completion, but we know that, we understand that, and we're getting ahead of the ball on that right now. So that's one update. And let's see, what do I have to have for that project completion? Certified statements, the project described and the scope of work is complete and meets the required standards. Certified statement of the actual dollars spent from all funding sources. Certification that all costs are incurred and accounted for. Submittal of the final voucher for remaining eligible funds, and of course, photos of the completed project. And so, like I said, that we just want, it's more of informational, just to update you. We're not really worried about any adverse effects at all. The
So
other,
do we need to take any action to extend the contract, or are we okay on that?
We're okay on that. We have authorization, Commissioner. Thank you for doing that, but definitely want to keep you apprised of where we are on schedule and budget.
the other is the engineering services budget. That has been impacted. We're expecting an additional 41,000 to complete. Do know that the entire engineering services contract is covered under the Public Works Board grant. Thank you very much. The original amount was 786,000. I said we're estimating an additional 41,000, and this increase is due basically. Justin left, right? Our water wastewater manager left. Our plan was to have him on site and performing inspections, learning, and it just didn't work out that way. And we haven't been able to replace him yet, but we're getting closer. And the other good news is our current grant has the capacity to pay for this. So I just definitely wanted to keep you up to speed on that and let you know what's going on.
Good, appreciate that. Are you working with Mary to find this person?
We've got 2 people that we're planning on interviewing. They're getting set up for interviews. So yay. That's really good news for me anyway.
Yes.
I bet it is.
Okay. And then the other is the screens. You know, last year we rebuilt the UV, the disinfection part, the last step, treatment option that, the last step in treatment that we have at Belfair. That's all been rebuilt like to new standards last year. Good news is we're at that with the beginning of the plant this year. We've rebuilt all 3 screens. And I've got some pictures here. As soon as there we go. I'll share my screen. I hope. Can you see that?
Yes.
That is an aerial of the 3 screens. The one to the left where my cursor is, that's that's actually the coarse screen. And these 2 over here are fine screens. And you can see they are just covered and shrouded, so you can't see anything about them. All this has to come off. So our staff did that this last week, got prepared, and we had Huber Technologies, a rep, come out and help us rebuild these. So I'll run these through. This is another thing we did this year was this is a human machine interface screen. That's how we can access and program, run these things in auto or manual. That had to be replaced because it was just burnt from the sun. You couldn't see anything on it. So that's been replaced and programmed and up processed. It's plugged in and working. And you can see just how kind of tight it is to work around up here. Here's one of our screens being lowered after This is the coarse screen because you can pretty much see through it. Those openings are like 5 millimeter, which is just about the size of a pencil, diameter of a pencil. Get that on the ground. Here's a couple of our operators. It's Jason Knight on the right and Joe Kelly on the left. You can see Joe doesn't have gloves on. That's okay. He's the tool guy, so he's not supposed to. But yeah, we replaced all the bearings, seals, everything. This is our friendly service technician, Danny. That's the screen going, like getting lifted back up, back into place. Here's all of our stuff that we got to put back on it yet. The good news, all 3 screens are up and running, functioning in auto as provided in 2012. We're back to new status on that portion of the plant. So we've only got not much to go. Basically, brain surgery. That's all we got left to do is to pull the brains out of it, update them and replace them. And pretty much Belfair will be back to 2012 standards.
Wow, that's awesome.
So pretty happy. And I know the staff's really happy.
Yes.
Because running these in manual for the last months and months, it's just laborious. And you definitely are not allowed to forget it because it will cause so there you go. Thank you for the funds to do that. That'll make everybody's days and nights and weekends a lot better.
Well, I think it's neat for, for this type of a presentation because it also reminds people that there are maintenance issues. You've got your O&M and you can't ignore those things. Otherwise, you do have bigger problems.
Well, and for us, most of our work, we don't have nobody wants to see our show and tell.
I do. I thought it was cool.
Actually, something that's, safe for TV. So,
right. It's the kind of crap you can watch.
That's right. No warnings.
And Richard, so we got 11 years out of the screens, and really Huber was saying typically about a 5-year.
Yeah, he said that without a doubt, every 5 years. And like he said, he goes, I'm not the salesman. He goes, I'm the service tech that works on these things. He goes, because I asked him, we got a lot of information from him about maintenance and timings and stuff like that. And he goes, really, you can count on 5 years you need to do this. So we'll work on alternating them. So one of them just, so we can extend it out. We'll figure out strategies and memorialize those so we don't have to, so we can do possibly extend it to 10. But a little more clarification. And just, now that we've had a staff that has been here longer than what we were normally accustomed to. I mean, I've got operators who've been here 4 years. Heck, that's great. We're learning a lot more and knowing how to operate this correctly. Not learning every day.
Definite bonus.
Yes. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Commissioners, any comments or questions or?
No, great updates. Looks like looks like some good work happening. So hats off to you and your team, Richard. Great job.
None from me either. Thank you.
Right. That is it, commissioners.
All right. Very good. Looks like the next thing we have is a hearing coming up on November 7th for the Kelly Hall Road.
Yes, that is right. And then tracking to make sure that we review with commissioners this year's local and community grant requests.
Very cool. All right. Thank you, Loretta.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Mark.
Alrighty. So let's jump right in. Jen, are you on? She's got some updates on our budget hearings and the September financial reports.
Yes, good morning. I am here. So I have the annual approvals to set public hearings. The first one is for the levies, and that would start on November 21st. And that will be a continued hearing, most likely, almost definitely. So we won't have all of the tax information from all the districts until November 30th, most likely. So anyway, I'm just requesting to set the levy hearing for that for November 21st, and then the public hearing to set or to adopt the budget for 2024 on Monday, December 4th.
Good with me.
Sounds good to me too.
Thank you.
Same for me. I love it.
Oh, thank you very much. So the next thing that I have is the September financials. I'll share my screen. So for the general fund, beginning on page 2 of your packets there, we are at, for revenue, 78% of our budget we have received in the general fund through September of this year, $33,425,959, compared to last year, $32,840,530. We were at 81% of our budget last year. The benchmark is 75% through the end of September. So it looks like we're pretty well on track there. Moving on to the treasurer's revenue detail. In the treasurer's office, we have received this year through September $22,339,617. We're at 79% of our total budgeted revenue. Compared to last year, we had received $22,903,585. We were at 85% of our budgeted revenue last year at this time. So, any questions or comments before we move on?
Not for me.
One of the positives of having higher interest rates is we earn more interest on our funds. So that's nice to see.
Yes, definitely.
A bit more.
In the expenditures in the general fund, so far through September, we have expended $31,707,057. We're at 66% of our budgeted expenditures, compared to 67% last year. We've expended $29,262,509. So most funds are looking pretty good through the end of September. This is about the time when we start analyzing really heavily if any funds are going to be over. I met with Peter Jones last week on his budget. While he's at 75% through the end of September, it does look like he is going to be a little bit over. So he'll be bringing forward a budget amendment request and a transfer request to move money from salaries to operating, since he was having trouble, I think, finding attorneys, and he had longer cases than were anticipated, that sort of thing. So anyway, there's a few other funds that are looking a little bit over, so I'll go back and analyze those as well. Moving on to the special fund and 6-year recap. Community development revenues are up compared to last year. Detention and correction is down, but that's a pretty minimal revenue. Property taxes are down because of the levy shift that we didn't do, and the diversion we didn't collect we didn't plan on collecting as much diversion as we normally do. The county road property taxes are up because we shifted that back to them. The sales tax continues to go up. The criminal justice taxes and entitlements are up. And then rural sales and use tax is up. Filings are down. Lodging tax is up, and then REIT is down compared to last year. On the county sales tax detail, we received $861,616 for the month of September, which would have been collected in July. So if we receive exactly what we did October through December of last year, in the next few months, we will receive about $9,670,000 in sales tax. We have only 8.4 million budgeted for this year. We've increased our budget for 2024 to 9.2 million for sales tax. But looking at this, I mean, if it continues on like it has, we still might be just a little bit low next year, but we're giving ourselves a little cushion. So I'm comfortable with the 9.2 at this point in time. The 6-year financial recap. So our cash balance is at $28,460,634 at the end of September. That does include our LATCF funds, which Mark is bringing forward, I think, a recommendation maybe next week. Today. Okay, sorry, I didn't see it on the agenda.
All right.
Anyway, that we have about 797,000, I believe, that he'll be talking about. Again, we're at 78% of our budgeted revenues in the general fund and 66% of our budgeted expenditures. And in the cash balances in our special funds, we are at the end of September at $60,703,602, which is an increase over the previous 5 years, but does include the temporary ARPA funds. On motor pool, we're at 59.09% of our budgeted expenditures. We've expended through September $1,011,543. We have budgeted $1,711,730. Last year we were at 80.57% of our budget, but we had a whole bunch more vehicles coming in, and we had to upfit those. So that's the main difference there. On our special fund revenue, we have received $42,937,112 compared to, and that's received this year compared to last year, $46,754,895. We're at 71% of our budgeted revenue this year compared to 58% last year. On the special fund expenditures, we have expended out $35,696,446 compared to last year, $33,709,533. We're at 47% of our expenditures, our budgeted expenditures this year for special funds compared to 38% last year. So any questions or comments on any of the information provided today?
No, just great job. I appreciate your explanations on these, and I like it because it's easy to see, easy to read.
Thank you. All right, that's all that I have, so I'll stop my share.
All right, commissioners, any questions for Jen?
Me.
I had a quick question for you, Jen. Sorry to put you on the spot, but that Fund 117, Community Support Services.
Yeah. They do have a budget amendment in the works.
Okay, great.
Was that your question?
It was. Thank you. Yep. I'm sorry I didn't notice that before, but.
No, that's okay. I could have highlighted that. And then I've talked to Michelle Goldsby about the Narcotics Investigation Fund. They'll be bringing forward a budget amendment there as well. We have the election equipment holdings. They have a budget amendment in the works as well.
Do you have an expectation of the ending fund balance with the budget amendments coming up soon?
I don't at this time. I'll start working on that either the end of this week or beginning of next week and have a better idea maybe then.
No problem. Thank you very much. Good job, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Commissioner Netherland, we have some expenditures that we know are coming. We just don't know how much they're gonna be, but we do know that they're most likely gonna be significant. And so I do think that is that's something that Jen and I have kind of been keeping in the back of our mind, waiting for those things to come through. So definitely will impact that, and we'll be able to talk in detail when we get everything settled.
Yeah, I just don't have a number that I want to say publicly at this point in time. So thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Mary?
Morning. I wanted to bring forward the settled January 24 to December 27 collective bargaining agreement for the Mason County Office of Public Defense and Woodworkers Local Lodge W38 IAM. We worked really closely with them to come to a mutually agreeable tentative agreement, and really enjoying our partnerships with our unions at this time. And so I'd like to request that this get moved forward to the action agenda.
First, I want to say this one lays very, 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 very heavily on you. Great job. And I'm supportive.
Yeah, I am as well. Great job, Mary and team. And then also a big thank you to our public defenders for working hard to get this negotiated and to pass it over our way.
Yeah, agreed. I think this is cool. And this one is early too. So I think that's awesome.
Yep, we only have one more outstanding besides the sheriff's office, but the detention will be the last Teamsters contract that will get done early this year is our goal. And then we should be mostly up to date and start working on the ones that expire in 24 so that we can be ahead of the ball game here.
That's cool. I like hearing that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen and Mary. So the next item on the list is the final build out of Building 10, our district court building. So this has been a project that we were hoping to be able to complete in 2023. But when we sat down with our architects and cost estimators, what we had budgeted for the project was only about half of what they said the estimated cost was. So when we received this unexpected LATCF funding of $797,000, I'd like the commissioners to consider adding that to the money that we have dedicated or identified within our real estate excise tax to bring us closer to what that total is going to be. So based on I think you have to be careful in terms of the budgeting side of things. So schematic design cost estimates are they're not super strong, right? They're not something that we can look at and say, hey, it basically is putting us in the realm of where the cost might be. Definitely have worked with district court administration, as well as including Superior Court in the design side of things. I feel like we've really kind of brought it down to this is exactly what we need in order to move forward and utilize the district court facility as a district court, moving all of their probation and administrative services into that, as well as the files that they currently store in our courthouse. So the total cost of the project I'm estimating now is going to be around 2.1 million. The estimated cost of construction would be the 1.8. And the 250,000 is the architectural and engineering fees associated with doing the design and engineering and permitting associated with getting that project complete. So if we were able to move the 797,000 from the LATCF, so the Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund, into this project, then I'd love to move forward on it. So when I was working with the architects about, gosh, how do we make progress on this? One of the ideas that we were floating is maybe doing it in pieces. And so I believe I've updated the board on that, where we were potentially going to do the construction in segments. That is more costly than doing the project all at once, because when you break it into 3 or 4 different projects, then it adds administrative costs associated with separate bid packages, separate construction cycles. It's just when you think about the trades that are coming in to do the work, if they're only working on one specific area and then leave and have to come back, there's some mobilization costs that I think would also be increased associated with getting the project complete. So long story short is I'd love to get the commissioner's approval to move forward utilizing these LATCF funds and move forward with the project being done all at once.
So Mark, I will admit I've never heard of moving those funds in this manner. I think you've already done the homework and established that it is a good and allowable use. Then I'm supportive.
And the LATCF funds, are those one-time funds, or that's so?
Yeah, one-time funds. It's I believe it's kind of leftover money from ARPA that's being distributed.
Yeah, no, I think if that fits, then I think that's a good use of the one-time funds to put it into capital and get this project finished.
And I'm sure that George Steele and his staff will be super excited to get into their new building. And I'm sure that, this is a project that, gosh, it feels like it's been going on for decades. It hasn't, but it feels like it. So I have
I was going to say it hasn't. Are you sure?
Maybe half a century. I don't know.
We purchased it in December of 2018. So
yeah,
pretty long.
Yeah, pretty long. I have a question that's just kind of, well, I support this too, but I have a question that's kind of off topic. How long, because I know we have a contract with Helix. When can we go out for like an RFP or an RFQ for a new engineering firm if we need them?
So we just went out in 2022 with an RFQ, and we received, I think, 3 packages. When we were evaluating the responses that we received, I think that they were comparable with each other to a certain degree. The part that made Helix attractive to us was the fact that they are very familiar and have done a lot of work on district court building, and that was one of the major projects that we had listed on our goals to complete. And so I was hopeful that we would be able to utilize the knowledge that they had of the building and the permit process and working with all the players to help this process run smoother. And so I think that was a major contributing factor, but that definitely is something that the board, if the board would like, we could go back out and do another RFQ for those services. Now, I would like to point out that we received some funding to do a jail study from the state legislature, and we went out with an RFQ specific for that. And Helix was not a individual. They did not respond to that RFQ process. And I believe that I have a meeting tomorrow morning with the team to actually evaluate the 2 responses that we did receive and select what would be the apparent successful bidder on that RFQ process. And then we'll be bringing that before the board to approve and get that task force started.
That sounds great. Yeah, keep us updated. Let us know how that goes.
Judge Steele, did you have anything that you'd like to add to that?
Probably nothing constructive. It sounds good. So it was something we've been waiting for. I mean, actually longer than before I ever arrived here. I'm sure the Spirit Court is quite eager also because I think they like our space we currently have. So I think it benefits a lot of different organizations in the county. So we'll do our best to cooperate to make it work.
Well, everybody loves you. I'm sure they don't want to see you go, but they're happy to see you go. Does that make sense?
Oh, they're happy to see me go down there. So anyway, but what can I say? We'll do our best we'll do everything we can to cooperate to help this work through, and expect we'll need to do some coordination so we can still have use of the courtrooms, both us and Superior Court. And so we'll work it out.
Yeah, so those are all components of the complexity of the bid process for this project, because it is an active building. So it's not something that we shut down and just bring contractors in and they're able to work normal schedules. All of those things combined add to the cost of getting it complete, right? So if we have to have construction crews working in the evenings or in the nights, then that's very different than just bidding the project to work during the day. So you could imagine all the different trades that are there that are having to work separate or alternative schedules. There's a premium that you have to pay for that. So absolutely would love to see how we could coordinate this in the most cost-effective manner. And I feel like both Superior Court and District Court have been open to some of those ideas. And so would love to see that continue into the future.
Okay. Sounds pretty positive.
Thanks, Judge.
All right, if there's no other questions, that's all I had for you on our agenda. I do have a quick administrator update on it, that the latter part of this week, I will be attending a risk pool conference with Nicole. So this is the first risk pool conference that I've ever attended. So it'll be interesting to see and hear. Hopefully I don't come back too scared about all the potential liabilities that exist out there for entities like us, but I'm sure it'll be informational.
They usually are, right? I think Commissioner Netherland is usually our representative there for the commission, and I'm sure he has just a dandy time.
Yeah, he actually recommended that I go to this one. He felt like it would be good information for me to learn.
They teach you a lot there. There's quite a bit that goes on. You remember those candies are called sugar babies? Bring those with you and start throwing them at anybody that starts to mention about increases.
I better buy a big load of them because
yeah.
With the settlements and the litigation that we've kind of heard about through Nicole, those all impact our rates, and we are in a pool. So
hopefully, though, they'll give you the full presentation, because I know it's a different year, the way they're doing this one this year. But man, I got to tell you, when they start breaking down what's going to be happening, not just with risk pool, but with the country in the future and what things are based upon, you will, of all people being a numbers person, you will definitely enjoy it. I hope they give you the same show that I normally get.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. That's all I had, Commissioner Trask.
All right, great. So the next thing on here is the Operation Green Light for Veterans Proclamation. So we did this last year. Kelly and I've been working on this. Kelly has some great ideas for green light placement. And so he'll be helping to get the green light out there for veterans. This is through November, or from November 6th through the 12th. And so I would love it if we could get this resolution before the commission and have it signed. Kelly, do you want to say anything?
I don't have nothing. I'm ready to go. I've got all this stuff. I ordered some green lights for all your guys' office. So there'll be little candles in each one of the building one windows with the green light in them, so we can light that up. And I will turn the courthouse, building one, and Memorial Hall green.
Commissioner, I'm very supportive. Kelly, go forth and turn the county seat green.
Commissioner Schutte?
Oh yeah, 100%. Sorry, I thought I already said it.
You may have, but I don't know.
That's great.
Wait a minute, did anybody realize that I just said those words? Turn the county green?
Turn the county green. That's awesome. All right. And the only thing that I really wanted to bring up, Mark, is let's get quarterly elected and department head meetings on the calendar so that we can make sure that we keep consistent with that. And I loved the last work session that we had. I think that it would be cool if we could do those maybe quarterly as well. I don't know how the other commissioners feel, but that's just my thought.
I'm writing it down.
Appreciate that. And then commissioners, do we have anything other than calendar updates?
I don't believe I do.
I do not.
Yeah, I don't think
But,
I've got
but
anything. Oh, go
on the
ahead, Randy.
calendar update, I don't know for sure that I'll be there for the MTA, but believe it or not, I will try because it's my job. But if not, please explain why.
Well, you wanted a fun conversation, or we can make it really inventive.
Yeah, make it inventive. I love hearing what I've done when I get back.
All right, yeah.
Over the years, I've done some incredible things. I wish they just could have seen them actually happen.
Well, and there is a bit of a time difference too, so. All right, well, if we have nothing else, how about a motion?
Madam Chair, I move we adjourn.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. We're adjourned.
Bye, everybody.